What is happening? YouTube land, Instagram, everybody else. It is so good to see you. My name is Coach Sean, and I am a faith-based relationship coach here to help you build healthier, happier, and whole relationships with yourself, with God, and with others. Because without the first two, relationships with others is just simply unbearable to build. And we are in store for another conversation, an installment in our series, The Dating App Dilemma, that you are undoubtedly, and I hope as you're listening to this, whether it's currently, you're watching this live, or you're watching replays, that you're just going to greatly benefit from in an abundance of ways. All right. As we just dive into these conversations. Okay. And so, of course, this series is not designed to persuade you to use dating apps, nor is it designed to trash dating apps. What we're doing is looking at empirical data. What we're doing is looking at research. What we're doing is actually looking at what's out there, what's recorded, and the experience is shown so we can actually make healthy decisions for ourselves. If even being on a dating app makes sense, but more importantly, how healthy are you to even be ready to engage in all things that come with dating? All right. And so this is a great opportunity for us to continue this installment. If you've missed the previous seven, okay, because this is now the eighth part. All right. Even though I believe it might read a different part. This is the eighth part, all right, of this installment. And so if you've missed any previous ones, be sure to head over to my YouTube and watch the replays. Okay. So you can catch up, so you can just kind of catch up what we're doing and what we're talking about and what we're unpacking. All right. And this is actually the second part to the psychological starting conversation that we had yesterday on the dating. All right. So yesterday we kind of covered men and women and the psychology of dating centered on there. Okay. How men and women approach the game of dating and how men and women see dating differently, although goals are the same or are common. Okay. Obviously, depending on who you are, where you're going, you might have a common goal of wanting to be married, okay, wanting to experience long-term relationships, monogamy, all the things, okay, common goals, but yet the lens in which you view the dating environment, experiences are different. And it's something that we had to lay out and get further understanding on so that we don't continue to mistake behaviors as someone being something else that they're not. Okay. We recognized and learned that women filter dating through the lens of safety. Okay. Whereas men filter dating through a different lens. All right. They're filtering it through what they can provide. Okay. And do I still have it? Can I still actually go out here and lead? Am I able to do? Am I able to be? Okay. We kind of witnessed from a perspective of laying the foundation that at the core of every human being, both men and women, ask a particular question from the soul that doesn't just spill out into their behaviors and relationship patterns, but ultimately even the things as small as dating and why. Okay. Men ask the question, am I worthy? How will I prove it? Women ask the question, am I lovable and who will love me? Okay. And when these questions aren't answered, even from the start, from their relationship with their parents, relationships with their families, and where they're born, it is something that they actually lean towards, even dating, to answer, right? And so, of course, a lot of this has to deal with getting to a place of fulfillment and fullness and abundance and where you are and who you are. That allows these things to develop fully. Thank you so much for the heart me and the love. Shout out to Jenna Carol in the chat. I did not forget about your message, by the way. I see your message over in TikTok, so I'm gonna get to you. Okay, it's just been kind of busy. Expect a follow up today. All right. Although I know I mentioned something in the stream, but I do want to make sure I answer that message as well. Um, and so we talked a lot about it. Okay, we talked a lot about it, and now we're going deeper into the psychology of dating. This time specifically centered on dating apps. What's the psychology behind dating apps and the usage of them? Okay, something that I've been seeing a few recently. Okay, I've had a couple conversations with men and women on dating apps, and there definitely has been a form of fatigue at times that shows up. All right, doing all this swiping, all this messaging, all this conversing, so many options, so many profiles. Oh my goodness, it just gets crazy and out of pocket. And one thing that I've been finding myself reminding others of, and even reminding myself of as someone who is in these dating streets, okay, whether you're using apps or not, is just the aspect of going with a steady flow, right? So there needs to be a level of balance that is incurred when it comes to dating and how much time you're spending on whether apps or just going out and going places, because you definitely need time to recharge, right? You definitely need time to recharge. You need time to actually step away from these things so you're not so locked in and glued on them that you walk around like a zombie and you're drained all the time. Okay. But when it comes to the psychology of dating apps and the usage of them, okay, this is really, really important because the tension that we have to really unpack here from the core of it and from the highlight of this entire talk, okay, let me get my words together, from this entire talk is that people think they're just checking an app, right? So, in regards to how the apps are set up, all right. Oh, I love this. Chan, I appreciate you a ton. Please let me know if I can say that. If there's a different name you like to be called. Over on TikTok, I can't seem to trust the guys on dating apps because I feel they are dating multiple people. We're gonna get into that, okay? Because that definitely is something that we address, not just in this series. All right. So I encourage you to go back and watch the previous replays over on my YouTube, Coach Sean Walker, all the handles, because we actually do address a little bit of that. But we're gonna get into that even more, all right, in this conversation regarding options, okay, dating multiple people, and what is the view on that. Okay, so stick around, and I appreciate you a ton. Um, so really, the core tension that we have to really address in this entire conversation, that's going to highlight a lot of this that we're going to highlight and talk through, is that a lot of people believe that they're just checking an app, right? Well, I just need to get my quota in for the day. I need to check my status. Do I have any new matches? Do I have any new likes? All these kind of things, right? For some of you, it's kind of like a psychology game where if you turn off the notifications, you won't look at it as much. However, it's something that you end up checking more, right? Not necessarily because notifications are off, so I need to know what's happening, but you're almost trying to trick yourself into believing that if you turn off your notifications, you won't care as much, when in reality, you do, or you have the app and you turn off the notifications because there's still a part of you that doesn't necessarily believe that you're going to find what you're looking for out there, right? So let's just do something else that makes us feel like we're taking a step into dating, but in reality, I'm still rewarding this loop that I've created in my mind that I can just keep getting close and keep putting myself in the vicinity of progress, but not actually make progress, create change, all the things. Okay. So we're going to dive into that today. But the core thought here is that instead of people thinking that they're just checking an app, what many don't realize is that they're stuck in a rewarding loop. Okay. Of course, we get into factors like dopamine, we get into factors of spikes of it, okay? Whether that's, of course, cortisol levels that hit, okay? Or at least maybe trying to go to dating apps as a means to level out cortisol levels, all right? All these different things that play a role. What's up, Coquise? Good to see you, sis. Been a minute. So we're looking into this, okay? And a lot of these reward loops center on dopamine, okay, variable rewards, all right, match anticipation, spikes of external validation hits, okay, even to the degree of rejection sensitivity that's very, very prevalent, okay, fear of missing out, comparison, emotional gambling, and then, of course, just looking at why people keep using the app that you say you hate, right? I don't know if I've really been, the more and more that I've been coaching and helping people in these spaces and connecting with so many people in various different areas regarding their romantic life, but just relationships in general, as I think this is such an interesting time because so many people claim to hate using dating apps. You hate the process of dating. You hate connecting with people. You just use a lot of that terminology, okay? But yet you keep using them. You keep using the apps. You keep getting on them. You keep checking your status. You keep updating your profiles. Or at least you convince yourself in one way or another that you don't care, but yet you still have the app downloaded. You still have the app somewhere near, okay, even if its notifications off, because in some way, shape, or form, you recognize that there is some type of tension present where you want a relationship, okay, you want a connection, but there's a part of you that is still moving by fear, doubt, lack, all the things that keeps you from fully investing. Okay. Or perhaps you're still moving from emotional baggage, unhealed areas in your life that are tempting to be exposed in areas like this. Okay. So we're going to talk about all of it. Okay. And the biggest thing that we want to focus on too, outside of the tension that it's not just you checking an app, it's you rewarding a repetitive loop that's being created. Okay. Because remember, the body and the brain only remembers or really recognizes what you do intentionally and what you do repetitively. Okay. So it doesn't matter what you say about how much you don't like the apps and how much you don't care. If you're somebody who has put it in your routine to check the apps regularly, your body is saying you do care. Your actions and consistency says that you are looking for something even if it's not to the same degree as intentional relationships, as much as it is something that you're looking for external validation through. Okay. You're looking for a quick dopamine hit. Okay. There's something that you get from a level of excitement with every new match, every new conversation, every new message, every new pickup line that comes across your phone. Okay. Every new number that you get exchanged. So it leaves you in a way continuously coming back, continuously revisiting and staying in the loop. Okay. And if you're using matches, okay, here's a really good point here that I really want you to consider. All right. If you're using matches to regulate your worth, you're not dating, you're actually taking an unnecessary emotional gamble. Okay. You're taking an unnecessary emotional gamble. And that's something that we have to actually deal with because a lot of you, again, are coming to dating apps and it's probably a majority of users on there. We've talked about this before, how it's a very low barrier for entry. Okay. And so because it's a low barrier for entry, there's a lot of people on there for various different reasons. So, of course, it requires us to have a stronger muscle of discernment to be able to pay attention to the profiles we see, to pay attention to the people that are present, and to make sure that we're making the best decision and intentionality with each swipe we make. Okay. I actually had a thought the other day. Maybe it wasn't the other day, maybe it was yesterday. Like the more intentional you are about something, the more you should expect to not have as many matches and connections. Okay. Intentionality is a very common word that a lot of people use, yet a lot of people still don't follow through on. And that's not just to dating apps, that's just in life in general. Okay. Like the measurement of somebody's intentionality is definitely going to tell whether or not the results show, whether or not, they're actually moving forward in something that's healthy. You can claim intentionality, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're moving in it. And I think if you're going to be intentional, you have to expect that that comes with less options, less matches, less connections. Okay. You're able to weed out the ones that aren't as serious a lot sooner because you know what it takes to be as serious. Okay. And to be engaged. All right. And so we're going to talk about it as we are moving throughout this conversation. All right. Shout out to Jenna. She says, I have 0 apps and haven't for like 8 months because I absolutely hated them. Okay. Yeah. Again, like everybody is entitled to where they are. I don't disagree. Okay. For people who are like, yo, I'm tired of it. It's fatiguing. It's draining, all the things. I am not against anyone who's like, yo, dating apps, not for me. Okay. I've said before, as I stated this entire, talk and conversation, there are plenty of people that I'm around who I would consider healed, who have done healing work, who are married. Okay. All the things, or just honestly, they're single and they're building their careers and all the things. And they're like, fam, yeah, fam, like stay off the dating apps. Doesn't make sense. Okay. Again, I have my own, perspectives on those things, which is why we're creating this series because I think it is something we should talk about. However, I think it's a conversation that we can all get an understanding on and see where we're coming from without needing to agree to move forward, you know? And I don't blame anyone who's at that place where they're like, yeah, I just dating apps aren't for me. Okay. But for those of you who might be in a position where you're like, fam, like, I just want to know, is it okay? Like some people just want to know, am I a bad person? Am I a wrong person? Am I desperate? Am I what everybody on social media says I am? If I decided to use dating apps as a means of connecting to find someone that I want to invest in as a life partner. And this is where we get to have those conversations and unpack things at various levels. Okay. So let's talk about when we talk about the psychology of dating and the psychology of dating apps, we're essentially talking about the psychology of swiping. Okay. And why the dating apps themselves can simply feel addictive. Okay. Because truth is, there is a measurement to it. There is a measurement to it, right? So obviously, in order to access the best levels of the dating apps, there is a monthly subscription. Okay. There is a monthly subscription that you have to give, all right, and you have to pay for. Whether that's weekly, monthly, you can pay for like 3 months on majority of them. All right. Maybe there's a bigger package that's available as well, and all of it costs some type of money. Okay, you're looking at right now probably investing on average $50 a month, right? To get the most out of the experience on your dating apps, to unlock certain features, to allow matches to be more qualified, all the things. Okay. So there's some level of investment that you have to put into it. And if you ask some people, they'll tell you, like, fam, I just think it's a system designed to drain you of your money and to keep you using them. It's not actually filled with maybe real people or people that are supposed to be able to be available for matching. And again, can I see where that's coming from? Perhaps, right? Because if you think about the addictive loop that's present, the more money they convince you, the more money you spend, the more likely it is for you to find a match. Okay. The more settings and filters that you set up, okay, the more you're able to actually find the right match. Okay. They create all these different kinds of things to keep you involved in it, streaks, counters. Okay. Obviously, you have things like notifications and all that to let you know if there's a match. They'll send you daily notifications to re-invite you back into the app to find the one, all the things. Okay. And even though all of that is definitely tied to addictive loops that can be created, we actually want to be able to manage this not from a place of just leaving it as it's addictive, therefore it's a problem, but more so be curious on what exactly is making this feel addictive. And then how can we stay on top of this so it doesn't become something that's addictive? This kind of takes me to a passage of scripture, specifically from the book of Proverbs. So lets us know honey is a very sweet taste. It's a very enjoyable thing, but too much of it will make you vomit. Okay. Honey is a good thing. Okay. Too much honey. Well, let me just type it in here. Okay. So Proverbs 25:16. Oh, because everybody knows that this is coming from a biblical perspective. All right. So I want to give you guys something to think about. Of course, there's no way, shape, or form does the Bible ever talk about dating because the Bible is not in a cultural context where dating is happening like we know it to be. All right. So we do have to use some kind of like, hey, let's look at the main messages and fruit of some things to make some connections. But this is very, very interesting to me. Proverbs 25:16 reads this: do you like honey? Don't eat too much or it will make you sick. Okay. So even with what's good, this is kind of like the biggest standpoint of it. Even with what's good, let's find a balance, right? Even a good thing, let's find a balance. Because even a good thing without balance and measurement becomes a bad thing, becomes harmful, right? So just like we would look at some things and we would say, oh, that's bad, we should stay away from it. Okay. Well, if we look at that from a lens of always avoiding, we actually don't start putting ourselves in positions to look for what's good. And then when we find what's good, right, we have to be able to put some type of boundary in place so that way we do not overstay our welcome. We don't pour in too much. We don't do too much. We don't keep too much. We don't eat too much. We don't digest too much because obviously it can turn into something bad. All right. And so for many people, they might look at dating apps in the lanes of stay away from it, avoid it at all costs. But for those of you who decide to use them and invest into them, which can still be a good thing to use when used with wisdom and when used intentionally and when used from a place of healthiness and not from a place of, other areas that are unhealed and dysfunctional. Okay. We do have to find a healthy balance to where we don't get so consumed by it that we fall into the addictive loop over and over again. Okay. And so this is we're going to cover each of these areas that maybe makes and explains why the dating apps feel addictive with each loop or experience. Okay. And so instead of just believing that you're checking an app, okay, oftentimes the first thing that comes to mind is the dopamine loop. Okay. So if you're unfamiliar with dopamine, all right, it's kind of an area where I get to nerd out a little bit. All right. If you're interested in contacting me, be sure to send me a message with Secure. All right. And we can get some things going for you there. All right. You'll answer some automated messages, filter some things out, and get you what you need. All right. So when it comes to dopamine loops, all right, if you are unfamiliar with dopamine, dopamine is actually, in one way or another, the what I like to call, maybe for lack of better terms, like the drug of the brain. Okay. And so basically, when dopamine hits, it's a spike that allows you to hit this high of feel good. It's like a really good, centric, feel good drug. I'm just trying to simplify this the best way I can without getting too deep in terminologies. And with this, okay, obviously, with the dopamine hits, it makes you feel alive. Okay. Maybe another term for it is excitement. Okay. Pleasurable. Okay. Whatever it is. And every time this spike of dopamine hits, okay, depending on what level it's at when you first engage in it, the dopamine loop can convince you, okay, that once you keep hitting this same level repetitively, you need something a little bit more riskier, a little bit more challenging, a little bit more rewarding in order for this dopamine loop to remain. Okay. So if you think of it, here's a great example. Okay. Easily, because I know this is something I once experienced before and was once addicted to. That's part of my testimonial. When you think of corn, so replace the C with the P just for online purposes. Okay. So, like, obviously, there's a risk to watching, there's a risk to engaging, there's a risk to doing all those things. Right. And of course, you don't have to just apply this to there. You can apply this to food. You can apply this to real lifetime sex that you might have with people. You can apply this to work. You can apply this to anything that brings about some level of spikes, okay? Excitement, happiness, momentarily. It's fleeting, okay? Feels good and pleasurable, okay? But anyway, obviously you do it enough times, and now what was used to be something that felt like, oh, this is risky, this is dangerous, but yet exciting at the same time. I want to stay with it. You now start to take it to another levels, right? It doesn't. That's why when we talk about addressing corn, it's not just that in and of itself. That's the issue. Okay, I'm just gonna say the word just for purposes so nobody's confused. Porn. All right. So like we're not just dealing with the surface issue of that, right? Obviously, that's a symptom. There's a lot happening underneath that produces that fruit of the symptom. Okay, but that's why it doesn't stop there. It can easily transition to we go from porn to actually having, real life casual sex with people. And we go from casual sex then to, okay, now I'm sneaking out to do it. Okay, I'm sneaking around to do it. I'm doing it in public. Okay, I'm, whatever the case is to the upteenth degree, because the dopamine is convincing you that in order for you to get the reward that you're looking for, that's relieving, that's exciting, that's content, I need to do something that's a little bit more riskier, a little bit more off putting, a little bit more dangerous. Okay. That's kind of like that dopamine loop. And the higher it goes, obviously, the more probable danger can be created. The reason why the dopamine loop is important when it comes to the psychology of swiping is because you get a dopamine effect with matches. Okay. When you get the screen notification across your phone that says it's a match, okay, you get another message. Okay. You are able to continue looking at various different profiles and you like what you see. All right. The conversations that you're able to create. It's not just from the app itself regarding the pictures, the matches, like, dislike, all the things. It's also the notes, the messages. Okay. The conversation that you're building, the emotional investment that you're creating early on. Okay. All these things that play a role in that dopamine loop that is keeping you in a wash, rinse, repeated cycle. Okay. And so oftentimes when you're getting on dating apps, they feel addictive because it's hitting something in your brain from a dopamine effect that is making you say, I want more. Okay. Especially when you start getting matches, especially when you start getting attention. I want more. And it's important to be curious enough to press in and ask yourself, well, what exactly is it that you want more of and why? What does it say about you? What is it exposing in you? What is it bringing up in you that is creating this loop that you so desperately want to continue to chase? Okay. As you notice throughout the time of our journey in this series, we've been literally coming back to a similar place where we're turning a mirror on ourselves to make the most of what we're experiencing. Like, straight up. We're coming back to various points where we're saying, hey, what does this mean to me? What does this mean about me? What is this exposing? Instead of just leaving it as it is. Okay. So then when we talk about the variable rewards, okay, so this is also something that's on the back end of the dopamine loops. All right. And the variable rewards, I think from what I've understood correctly, and I could have it wrong, okay, but again, just from some data and some stuff that's sitting in front of me. All right. Variable rewards definitely come from not just the rewards from what you see, okay, whether it's that specific profile, maybe it's a voice note, maybe it is a not just a voice note depending on the app you use, maybe it's just the act of being liked, Okay. All these things that continue to bring some type of reward. Okay. Your brain has a way of connecting. Okay. The moment that you swipe and you continue swiping and you eventually get your first match, there is a way where your brain can easily tie to the idea that if I stay on here long enough, I'll find a match, right? Your brain will actually draw up a conclusion very quickly and a meaning due to the emotional bonds and the neurons and the neural pathways that are small and being created in numerous ways up here. Hey, once you get a match, okay, now we're going to start meaning that if we stay here long enough, we're going to get it. Okay. So the variable rewards, not just from the matches, but again, from the conversations, perhaps the variable rewards is like the numbers. Okay. Exchange of numbers. All right. For some of you, it might be being called cute, somebody giving you a pickup line, and it was out of this world. Okay. There's a variety of rewards that can be gained when engaging in these social media platforms, specifically when it comes to dating apps. What's happening, Samantha? Good to see you. And so we have to be willing to continuously being mindful of that. Appreciate the daily heart me, because the variable rewards sometimes will convince you more is there than what really is. Right? This is where we actually oftentimes start re-engaging with the idea that if somebody gives you their number, that means it's a lock. If I got the number, that means this is going somewhere, which means this is supposed to be something that goes all the way. For some of us, that could mean, oh my goodness, I got the number. Does that mean that this is supposed to go to marriage? Does that mean that this is supposed to create a whole new long term relationship? Okay. So, like, all of these things are present, all right, that oftentimes connect to the variety of the variables present in dating apps. Every like means something. Every match means something. Every response means something. Every response that goes unresponded means something. Someone who matched with you and then decided to unmatch with you means something. Okay. So there's plenty of variable rewards there that your brain is slowly computing and rewarding every time you get on there. Okay. Oh, I hear you, Samantha. Yeah, I appreciate you dropping that in there. Dealing with the anxious attachment in this new relationship already, where I feel like I need to entertain him all day. I fear he will lose interest in the quiet. Yeah. So I think one, that's something that is good to be aware of. Two, one of the best ways to navigate through that, of course, is staying curious with, what does silence and the lack of maybe action mean about you? Okay, because obviously that's challenging the performance in you, right? So I do think it's something we do need to challenge. I have a lot of different tools and resources available to actually challenge that. I encourage you to stick around because I do want to spend some time on some Q&A after this, and that could be a great time to deal with that. But in the meantime, I definitely encourage you to send me a message with Secure. You actually will have a lot of different windows of opportunity because there's automated messages covering anxious attachment specifically. You can actually get some free resources to deal with that. If that's helpful, also invest and make real change too. But that is something that we do want to be curious about. I appreciate you bringing that up because dating apps definitely exposes a lot of that, as opposed to our topic. Okay, so like dating apps in and of themselves can easily expose how much people are actually depending on their performances to bring about the type of person that they want to build with. Like I always have to be talking, I always have to be responding, I always have to be interesting, I always have to always. And that creates some type of belief that in the moment that there's quietness, you no longer add value to the conversation. You no longer add value to the relationship, therefore you're no longer wanted. Right? And so we like that's a very real exposure. And what's interesting is people will then say at that point, okay, that the dating app is the problem. No, I think it's the unhealed wound that is being exposed in you that's the problem that the dating apps just had a way of exposing because of how seriously you took a match, how seriously you took an unmatch, how seriously you took a ghosting and a rejection from somebody you don't know. Okay. But coming back to that, all right, the variable rewards, they're kind of endless, depending on the app you're on, depending on the matches you get, and depending on the conversations that flow. Okay. And the brain definitely has a way of becoming or turning certain outcomes into positive rewards based on what you gained. Okay. So this is something that you might learn, for instance, in a direction, an example of sales. The moment you make a sale in something, your brain feels like it's been rewarded for something you did. And so now all of a sudden, what you now have done once, your brain's like, oh my goodness, this is an awesome reward. We got to do it again. Okay. We got to get on another call. We got to close another sale. We got to send another message. We got to, because this is actually a sign that this is good and the reward feels great. Right. And eventually it happens so often that now it becomes normal. What once you thought you couldn't do and you didn't have the room to do, you now have done so repetitively that it's now become a regular part of your business, your strategies, all the things. Okay. So if we transition that to dating apps, you stay on there long enough and you get a match, your brain's like, oh, snap, we've been rewarded. Let's do it again. And for some of you, this is probably what directs you to becoming a serial dater because you like more of the external validation of certain behaviors than the quality of certain things that you're behaving towards. For you, it's more about external validation than it is about you actually finding somebody that makes sense for you. And that's your reward, the external validation. Somebody looking at you and saying, oh my gosh, she's cute. Oh my gosh, she's this. Oh my gosh, he's that. That's your reward. And that's the challenge. Okay. And that's definitely what can get you to feel addictive. All the accounts, all the profiles, all the likes, all the messages, definitely. Okay. But there's a way we're going to manage that. We're going to cover that at the end. Okay. How about the match anticipation? This is all connecting. Okay. The dopamine loops of coming to the phone. Okay. Coming to the app, clicking in the app, and then spending an abundance of time on the app. Followed by the variable rewards, which is just a variety of rewards that you can get from just matching, connecting, liking, what you see, profiles, all the things. Then we have match anticipation. And this is where, obviously, if you're on the dating apps long enough, the more and longer you swipe and you swipe right, okay, there's this slight moment that your body is moving into anticipatory mode where you're expecting, depending on how often you may see the animations, how often you may see these things, it definitely comes into contact with you saying, okay, this could be it. This could be the match. Thank you for the love, Samantha. I appreciate you a ton. Oh my goodness, this could be a match. Like, oh my goodness, I'm swiping right. This could be it. Okay. And you swipe right long enough to eventually get that animation. It's a match. They like you too. Send a message. Okay. And so that match anticipation is something that keeps you coming back and even addicted to it, right? Again, because it continues to reaffirm well, really confirm or reaffirm a couple things. For those of you, okay, bet. Hey, I appreciate you. I'll check it out. Um, so the match anticipation is like, okay, well, it's either going to reaffirm if there is no matches that, oh wow, so what I actually believe about myself is true. Okay, so believe it or not, there's so many steps and nuances to the dating apps and the usages of them that actually show up. So if you don't get matches, it's going to reaffirm to you, oh my goodness, I am that ugly. I'm not that attractive. I can't find the right person. I really am as bad as I thought I was. Dating really isn't for me. God really doesn't want me to be married. Okay. Oh, this is good. Yeah, stick around, princess. This is good. You're exactly right, she said. And sadly, I struggle with assuming a match means they want me. Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna keep unpacking this, right? But the match anticipation is like, oh my goodness, right? So we're swiping right. This is kind of some of us that will get on there. Okay, this is something I used to do a lot, and it was only because I did it because other people around me were doing it. When I first got into the scene on dating apps, when I was like my first, like, what was that, freshman in college at that time, um, people were like, oh yeah, bro, you can just hop on this dating app and figure it out. That's when I first got introduced to that stuff. And I would just see them swipe right, wouldn't even be caring, right? They're just doing this. Swipe right, 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 right. Like. That's an issue. There's no intentionality with that, which tells me that we're chasing after a high. The question is, what is the high? The high of the match, the high of the validation. Okay. I just want to see who I can get. I just want to prove to myself that I still got it to get who I want, that I'm actually still seen as attractive to other people. Here's another thing that a lot of people do that is silent that we'll come to later. Matter it kind of all connects in a way when we're talking about a lot of these addictive cycles that dating apps can present if we're not careful. Comparison. Because let's face it, you're not necessarily going to the person that you're dating and saying, look at all these matches. Guess who you're going to compare the lengths of matches that you're getting? Your homegirls, your group chat, the homies. Look who I got. Look how many I have. Because it's a small silent comparison game that's being played from one person to the next. And believe it or not, men are just as bad statistically and data wise as women when it comes to, the appearance of things, but you're not necessarily trying to win someone over that you're in front of. You're trying to be seen as superior among your peers that are of the same sex and gender. So, for example, women who get all dolled up and get real cute to go out, whether it's for a date or it's for a girls' night out, okay? They're not necessarily dressing for their man all the time. Statistics and data will tell you that they're actually dressing so they can be seen as the superior alpha female among the group they're with. Because I'm the baddest, I'm the cutest, and it doesn't matter how good you look, you couldn't take what isn't yours. Because somewhere there's a thought that there's a potential that if she looks cuter than me, then she can take my man. So her putting on her best when she goes out, not a problem, because she's trying to outperform her peers. Guys oftentimes do the same. It's a comparison game. Okay. What about the look good, feel good energy? That's a good question, Chaz. Yeah, I think the look good, feel good energy is very real, right? That we're not saying that definitely doesn't play a role. Obviously, the better you look, the better you feel about yourself. Yeah. I just don't think, from a statistic standpoint, that's been proven to be a superior factor behind everybody's intention when it comes to the majority of going out, going places, being in public, and being seen as somebody that's attractive and cute. Oftentimes, from a statistical standpoint, it comes from a place of comparison, no matter how small it is. Now, that's not to say everybody does that, but there's a great chance people on average are doing that, is really what the statistics show. Okay. And maybe we'll circle back around to that because that definitely plays a role. Yeah. It gives it absolutely what you wearing. Yeah. Because here's what's interesting, and this is something that a lot of people don't talk about, even when it comes to building friendships. Now, this kind of stems into other lanes of relationships as well. When we're talking about building friendships, absolutely, people will literally compare, okay, themselves to you in a massive direction, and they'll ask you, "Hey, what are you wearing?" This, that, and the third. And sometimes, without saying it, they like being your friend and being around you, but it's only because, if they're being honest, they feel they look good around you. Like they have this superior feeling because they know they look more attractive compared to you. So that's why they're around you. Now, this is not to say that you need to become now hyper vigilant and you're like, "Oh my gosh, so I really don't know who's my friend." Like that gets tiring. There's ways that we can deal with that. Okay? But again, there's variables to it. I will dress cute for myself, but I'm not revealing my body. Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely don't want to take away from the aspect that you will dress cute for yourself, right? I don't want to take that away. That's very possible. That's very true. Like women in their natural feminine energy love looking amazing, right? And love having themselves done and dolled up in the nice of ways. Absolutely. Like that plays a role. That plays a role. But there's typically three things, right? So you like looking pretty. Okay, that's just a common feature. A lot of times you're probably moving from a place of comparison. If it's a girls' night out, you're going out with your man. You want to look like, hey, that no matter how much this girl tries, she's not cuter than me, so she can't have my man. Okay. And yeah, I think there's a lot of psychology behind that as well. Okay. And so there is that to play with. All right. But I want to continue moving forward in this though, because I definitely have a couple other things I want to touch on this conversation. Okay. I didn't even start my timer, but I know where we're at. So match anticipation is big, right? So the idea that, hey, I'm just silently, continuously anticipating that there's going to be more matches. So obviously, I need to come to the app and be on there regularly so I don't miss a match. And once you get a match or you get a few matches, you're now starting to see that it's possible to get matches. So it's only something that's going to, for a lot of people in their minds, keep you coming back. Right. So again, this kind of in some ways, there's somebody listening to this and it's like, see, this proves exactly why I don't get on dating apps because it's a system designed for you to fail. It's not something that's designed for you to succeed. And again, it's not to say that I don't see that. I think there probably are truths to that aspect. And I think there are other areas that we could apply the same principles to that we overlook. Right. Okay. Like maybe we could probably apply that from a same psychological standpoint to gym memberships. We could probably apply that same thing to when you eat at fast food and when you eat out, right? Like, yes, there's a great chance that this is putting you in a loop to remain performative and to stay within a recycled place that isn't actually giving you, benefits or giving you production like they're telling you it can. And yet you still show up and you still do it and you still engage in it. Okay. So I definitely don't want to be random there, but I think there can be some things if we think long enough that can expose that the same things are present there. Okay. So there's a match anticipation idea that keeps you coming back. All right. Then there's validation hits. So the validation hits come from likes, comments, notes, messages, number exchanges. Okay. Every like that you have, we just talked about yesterday how most women, okay, when they're engaging in dating apps, they have a lot of likes that they have to filter through. So it's not a lot of times that women will get on dating apps statistically and they're the ones fishing. If anything, they're the ones that are receiving a lot of likes and they have to decipher from the like section. Okay. Do I want to match with this person? Was this interesting enough? Was the pickup line cute enough? Does it make me want to engage? And how women can oftentimes feel overwhelmed by that. Okay. The other side to this is how much of a validation dopamine hit that gives. Okay. So the validation that sparks up, like, oh, snap, I really am liked. I really am attractive. It continues to reaffirm something that either you already believed about yourself or that you're slowly realizing I can start believing about myself a little bit better because of the validation I'm receiving, which again has its own problems. Okay. But validation is big. And that also plays a role in the dopamine loops that are present. The more likes you get, the more matches you get, the more messages you get, the more attractive you feel, the more of a prize you feel. And God forbid your ego is so big you can't handle it to the point now that you have so much more demands on the person you're trying to connect with that you yourself don't even carry. Now we're hitting uncharted territory because the validation has gone to your head so much that you are constantly depending on other people to tell you how great you are that you don't even see it in yourself. That allows you to live reasonably, have reasonable expectations, reasonable standards, and be able to connect healthily. Okay. So definitely the validation hits definitely is something that keeps you coming back. Okay. Now, here's also something that you might not consider as a rejection, or I'm sorry, that I just kind of gave it away, but the dating apps feeling addictive and the psychology of swiping. It's rejection sensitivity. Okay. Right. So it's so much easier for people psychologically to get online and be behind a screen than it is to be in front of you and connecting to you in person initially. That doesn't mean that not everybody wants to get there eventually, but a lot of people want to rule out the risks of rejection, okay, as soon as possible. So their way of doing that, we're going to get online. We're going to get on that app. Now, that's not to say that everybody that's on an app is sensitive to rejection, can't handle rejection, or doesn't desire rejection. That's not true. And we can make a statement and say that rejection sensitivity is typically a high thing when it comes to these dating apps and when it comes to being on them. Okay? It's easier for me to send a message and then, hey, if they don't respond, that means they weren't interested. I probably am not thinking of them anyway because I got so many other profiles in front of me, so many other options to look to. Okay? Fairly new engaged. Oh no. This I'm married to the game. This is an aura ring. It's an aura ring. No. Not married or engaged. This is a aura ring. Yeah. I'm married to the game. No. Okay. So there's a rejection sensitivity that's present. All right. So that's a psychological loop that's present. Okay. It's easier for me. What's up, C? Okay. Um, it's easier for me to get on the app, get online, and I can at least handle the rejection by controlling it, whether that's by ghosting. Okay. I can control it by unmatching. I can control it by so many different factors other than dealing with the abrupt truth that I'm no longer wanted by said person. Okay. If we're being honest, dating apps in a way can be said to be designed as something that was to at least limit the harshness that rejection can bring to somebody because it wasn't designed for you to be able to confront all that. If you didn't want to talk to them, you don't have to. You can just stop messaging them. You can quickly unmatch just like that, gone. I don't have to confront you. I don't have to have a conversation. I don't have to say I'm interested or I'm not interested to limit any kind of hurt that could be brought out from saying no. But we know from experience that's not always the case, and that's not true. Not always, at least. Because there are many of you who still get on these social media dating apps and not even know them and still feel extremely bothered by the fact that they ghosted you, rejected you, and said no to you. And that is not a dating problem, that's a you problem. Because to still feel slighted and feel as if your life is miserable, downward spiraling, being rejected from somebody who doesn't even know you and you don't know them, that means that we were way more emotionally attached than we needed to be, way earlier on than we needed to be. And that needs to be exposed and dealt with healthily so that can stop being repeated. Because it's an attachment problem, not a dating app problem, not the other person problem, a you problem. That's a wound that we have to be able to deal with. And that is actually what just exposed it in you that we feel uncomfortable facing. Right? Okay. So you definitely can be stuck in dopamine loops. You definitely can be stuck in variable rewards, match anticipation, validation, and seeking it externally. Okay. I need people to tell me how awesome I am through the likes, comments, and messaging. And I don't necessarily believe that about myself. That's why I come to the apps because I need someone to validate me. Okay. For some people. And we'll get to the roots in a minute to really apply these things. Rejection sensitivity, we just covered. Comparison. Okay, so we kind of talked about this earlier in regards to some of the reasons why men and women do what they do when out in public. Okay, when going places, it's from places of comparison. I want to look like the alpha individual in my friend group. I want to look better. Okay, all right, I look more attractive, all the things. Now, when we're talking about comparison, it's not necessarily always just about you in the sense of how much better you look compared to your peers and counterparts. It's also about comparison to the people that you're connecting with. Okay. So again, options isn't necessarily the problem. It's how we view options. And more importantly, how do we deal with options? that are the problem. Okay, I want to put this on pause for a second. Piani asked, "How can I get over ghosting?" We had a date, continued talking, and then he ghosted when I asked for date two. Yeah, so number one, in order to get over ghosting, which is your main question, it's important that we apply and attach a different meaning to the experience that we had with the person that we shared this experience with. Okay, so you went on a date, you clearly had a fun time because you wanted a second date. Okay, but we have to reattach a meaning to ghosting that's different than what we're trying to give it initially. So initially, the ghosting might mean, oh my gosh, I'm not enough. What did I do wrong? How did I fail? Reminding me of all the different things that I feel like are wrong with me already that this person, by their ghosting, feels like they reaffirmed. My question to you is, what else does it mean? And we have to intentionally look for it. Okay. I actually have an analogy that makes this make sense because this is just getting to the place of understanding that two people can have the same experience but different results. And it's not because the experience changed, it's because the meaning attributed to the experience was different that created a different action. And a lot of times we have to look for a specific meaning in a specific abundance instead of clinging to the only meaning we're giving it because it's the first meaning we'll give it because it's what we're trained to give it based off of our programming. I hope I'm making sense. Okay. Um, this is I mean, it's kind of a picture painting. Okay. I'll give two instead of an analogy. I'll give two. So if you actually go to, um, have you ever gone hiking? You ever plan on going hiking? Okay. Obviously, people who hike up mountains and all the things, the view of the mountain from the ground is different than the view of the mountain when you reach the top, right? It's different views, but yet it's the same mountain. The mountain didn't move. The mountain isn't destroyed. The mountain isn't cleaned up. It's just different views. So when we look at the mountain from the ground up, we're looking at this and we're going, man, I see the gravel, I see the dirt. Okay. This looks like a tall task to be able to climb. Okay. I'm seeing everything from ground level. Whereas somebody who's at the top of the mountain, they're seeing this beauty of the skies. They're seeing the landscape from up top. Things look a little different, a little exciting, a little bit more better. Okay. The person at the bottom of the mountain doesn't necessarily have to attribute that the mountain itself is a horrible mountain because their view of it from the ground level. They can actually carry the same perspective of the mountain as the person up top, even if they have a different view because of the things that they're able to see more closely, because of what they're able to experience, and because of the meaning that they're attaching to the travel or to the whole idea of being at the mountain. Okay. So if I were to paint this into another direction, one person is getting ghosted and says, well, this must mean I mean nothing. I have nothing to offer. I'm of no value. But in reality, okay, there's another person who gets ghosted by the same situation in the same moment. And now we attach the meaning to mean, hey, they just weren't it. They weren't the right person. This isn't a reflection of who I am not. This is just a reflection of the maximization of this experience. And I can be okay. Because rejection is either about preference or preparation. They either prefer something different than me or they're not prepared for me, but it's not about me. And guess what that person with that means and that story is able to do? Continue to find love, be available for love, look for love, find love, and experience the relationships that they've always wanted versus the person who looked at it and said that it means I must be nothing and I'm worth nothing. Well, they downward spiral. And now the results are not that they find love, not because it's not there, but they can't see it. They can't find it. They can't look for it. And so now they're initially going into relationships, self sabotaging, ruining it, pushing people away, becoming hard, pushing people out. And it's not from places of protection or protecting my peace, as people would say. It's really a form of hurt. So the reason why I'm describing it this way is because you have the opportunity to attach a different meaning to that without it meaning you are too much, you're not enough, all the different negative meanings we might already attach to it. And it doesn't just happen once. We have to really rehearse that. We have to really rehearse that because the body and brain only remembers what you do intentionally and repetitively. And I don't even necessarily say it's too much interest. Like you got to think about it. If you showing the interest authentically that you have for somebody ended up being too much for that person and that led them to walk away, that can't be because you were doing too much. No, I think you were just being authentic. That person just showed that they didn't have the capacity for it oftentimes. And that doesn't make them a bad person. And this is also something we have to just recollect when it comes to rejection and experiencing relationships and dating is that not everybody's going to be your cup of tea, just like you're not everybody else's cup of tea. So sometimes it's not about villainizing somebody. We just have to accept that, man, oh, I went on a date, it was cool. I wanted more, they didn't. And I just need to be able to let go of whatever envisions I was maybe creating in my mind about the relationship from the first date or from the first experience. And I need to grieve through that legitimately if there is a need to grieve through it so I can let it go healthily. Because a lot of times people ghosting has less to do. It has less to do with it has less to do with you. Oftentimes people just don't know how to communicate and say no. People just don't people don't know how to communicate and say no. We live in different cities, and I offered to visit him in his town and spend another evening together. I don't know if that I can't really say if that was too intense. I would I mean probably has to be a lot of other details in the conversation for that to make sense. And again, I'm saying somebody who has the capacity to engage and do that healthily probably won't respond to that with a ghosting. They probably will respond to that, hey, probably not, but I still want to see you. Probably just won't be like you coming over to my town or whatever that looks like. And you guys talk more about what that looks like. It's pretty simple. That's why I said I don't think it's necessarily something that we have to paint as something that's mean, evil, or wrong. But again, it sounds like you're in a place that you need to grieve it. And that's why I encourage you to grieve it. Because there probably may have been a lot of things you attached to quickly. And we got to be honest about that. But this is why we're in healing places like this. So we can do that intentionally. I hope that made sense. So I want to wrap this up, right? So we talked a little bit about comparison. Okay. We're not just comparing ourselves to our peers and counterparts, we're also comparing other options that we might have. Okay. So that's a really big thing as well. Um, and again, hey, who looks better? Who feels better? All those things that play a role. Okay. Believe it or not, comparison is one of the greatest enemies to your joy. Okay. And this is why it's important that you should become secure in who you are and enjoying your presence so that in the event of connecting with people and having options, you don't allow the illusion of options to be something that conflates with what's actually available, quality, intentionality, availability. Okay. Just because you have options doesn't actually make you a qualified candidate. And we should just like throw that out the window. Just because you have options doesn't mean you have a qualified candidate. There's a lot of people who are swarming to things that actually are not good for them, and there are a lot of options. That doesn't make it good. Just because there's a long line at McDonald's doesn't mean I should eat McDonald's knowing what's in McDonald's. Right? Just as an example. So we have to be careful with this idea of comparison and living at that. All right. Then there's fear of missing out. Gosh, fear of missing out is a big one that keeps people in this addictive loop. Okay. And if you're noticing, there's a lot of roots underneath these things that are symptoms showing up in what we've discussed so far. Fear of missing out is one of the things that actually pushed me to being in dating apps when I first joined them in, early college experiences. Because I was so caught up on trying to catch up on what I felt I missed out on in my high school years because I wasn't allowed to date at that time. So what better way to put myself out there than to get on an app just to be like, oh, look who I got coming back to Xbox parties. Look who's in my phone. Look who's in my chat. That stuff was lame. That stuff was lame. Okay. But that was where my mindset was at the time because I was too busy trying to catch up on what I felt like I had missed out on in life. And anytime we're moving from a place of fear of missing out, notice the first indicator of that whole entire statement, fear. You're operating from fear. So if you're operating from fear and fear is the main reason you're getting on dating apps, we should be curious because anything that we do out of fear is not out of abundance, is not out of fullness, and most certainly isn't out of a proper state that produces the best outcomes and results. Fear of missing out can't be why you get on dating apps. Fear of missing out can't be why you hurry to make all the matches and you stay swiping right and you never swipe left. Fear of missing out can't be why you never say no. Fear of missing out can't be why you consistently go from person to person and don't take time to heal. And instead of healing, you get out of a relationship and you get right back onto a dating app. Start talking with people, matching with people. That's dysfunctional, fam. You're a serial dater, and we got to get that figured out. Because what you end up doing is hurting people along the way, all because you're trying to use them as products to numb a pain they didn't cause. That's unfair to them. Okay. So the fear of missing out. And dating apps are really good with this too, creating that fear of missing out. Obviously, they do. And, I wouldn't necessarily say it's always fear tactics, but some people might read to some of the notifications that might pop up throughout the day. Find your match, don't lose your streak, all these kind of things that are designed to get you back into the app, re engaged in the app. Okay. But it's all about how you look at it. Okay. Even though, yes, it can be designed as a fear tactic to get you back into it, that doesn't mean that's what it has to mean for you. Okay. We can stay open and stay curious without allowing those notifications to be something that scares you into thinking, oh my goodness, what if I miss the one? Fear of missing out has you guys so much in a chokehold that you'll cling to somebody that you matched with and take them the distance and don't even know them. Fear of missing out is what has y'all so much in a chokehold that you interpret a match to mean your soulmate. That can't be it. All right. And so we have to be able to address that at the root. And what is the root? For some of you, it's anxiety, fear, uncertainty, biological clocks. And anything that we're doing out of fear of missing out is something that's producing more harm than good. Okay. Emotional gambling plays a role as well. We kind of mentioned some of this too, but again, if you think of gambling, okay, we're taking chances at feeling good, taking chances at doing things differently. I don't know how many prompts I've seen on Hinge and on in itself. Like the biggest risk I've taken is getting on this dating app. Okay. Everybody's trying to gamble. Okay. But here's the thing about gambling. If you've ever done a gambling game, obviously it doesn't mean you're going to get your return of investment immediately. And obviously there's many people who go to WinStar and all these other places all weekend long with a lot of money and leave with nothing. I'm coming in with a lot and I leave with nothing. Right? So if an emotional gambling is in the similar sense, but we're gambling with, all right, you guessed it, our emotions, our feelings. I'm taking a chance because I have nothing else to lose. And that probably gives off more desperate energy than anything else. But realize how the dating app itself isn't what created that energy. It was the energy you chose to move into the dating app with that is actually the problem. Okay. Which all kind of comes to a head, okay, regarding using dating apps that you just don't like. And truth is, you're not you. Your truth is, you're using them, and you're still using them, even though you say you hate them. Okay, even though you say you hate them, you can't stand them, they're terrible. You're still using them, and it's creating a level of cognitive dissonance because something you hate is also something you're depending on to be seen, to be known, to be experienced, to create a form of relationships. And I do think we have to get to a place where we're okay with changing our minds on certain things, especially after conversations like this, to just be open to more things than maybe we once were aware of. Be okay with changing your mind. Yeah, I hated it before. That's just because I didn't really know how to use it. I wasn't prepared to use it. I wasn't healthy enough to use it. And now that I'm in a better position, I feel like I can use them a little bit differently now, a little bit more healthier now. Okay. But a lot of people are using these apps that they say they can't stand because they still recognize there's something they want that they're not willing to put themselves in different positions to have. Dating apps for a lot of you are comfortable. Being behind profiles and text pals and not creating dates and not planning dates and not meeting somebody is comfortable for you. We can call it a spade. For some of you, it's just the comfortable thing to do. It's comfortable to hate on something and not use it, or to hate it. Well, I guess that makes sense not to use it if you hate on something. It's comfortable for you to hate on something and still use it behind the scenes. On social media, wow, dating apps are awful. I agree with the people, but behind the scenes, when no one's looking, I'm sending messages, I'm trying to find a match, and I'm dating. And that's just actually a revelation of a lack of alignment somewhere. And I'm not saying that you need to stick with hating them because everybody else hates them. I would rather you, okay, be in a space where you're trying to figure it out. I would rather you be in a space where you're like, hey, I'm open to thoughts and suggestions on what could actually make the dating experience a lot healthier. And if dating apps are a part of that, I can be willing to try that. But let's not move with this aspect of blaming the dating apps, blaming the very things that you use to find what you claim you're looking for. That's probably part of why you can't find what you're looking for. Because you're not even putting yourself in positions to find it healthily. Like if I told you right now on live to look around your living room and living space that you're watching this now, and you're like, hey, I'm telling you, look for everything that is red. Okay? Look for everything that is red. Look for anything that has some form or resemblance of the color red, and you find it and you start pointing it out, and I tell you to look for that for a while, and then I tell you to, hey, look for everything that is blue. Okay, after a while of looking for everything that's red, okay, you also miss everything else that's blue at the same time, because you cannot focus on what you're not intentionally looking for, and the things that you're not used to looking for, you have to look that much harder to find. Which means when you're so used to looking for negativity, it doesn't mean positivity and abundance isn't around. You just have to retrain yourself to look for it. And sometimes it takes a little bit more effort and intentionality to find it. It's the same thing with this. It's the same thing with this. So if you're gonna use them, cool. But don't be that person that hates on them and then uses them, because then that kind of just we kind of see what type of energy you're moving with. And that's not consistent. Okay. So as we mentioned earlier, if you're using matches to regulate your worth, you're not dating, you're actually emotionally gambling. I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to play the game. I'm not going to be intentional. And I'm just looking for me to feel more validated. Not to actually come in with the internal validation, because validation is an internal job, not an external job. So if I keep using apps and people to subserve this type of external validation in me, then I'm never actually going to move forward healthily. So you kind of need some rules in order for you to not move in places of addiction, to turn something that could be a good thing for you into something that's bad for you and imbalanced. Okay, you got to be able to have some type of rules. And these rules are less about what time you scroll and what time you get on them. It's more about your state and posture when you go to them, and being aware in the moments that you go to them in some of these states, because we can only catch it if we become more aware of it. All right. So put a one in the chat if you're ready for some of these rules that could be helpful. When is the appropriate time? When is the appropriate stature to be able to use this if I want to get on dating apps, if I want to engage in them? Okay. Put one in the chat if you're ready for some of these rules that could be helpful. Shout out to everybody watching it across the board: YouTube, Instagram. Appreciate y'all. Okay. Shout out to the ones. filing in. All right, cool. So check it out. It's something that you just genuinely have to consistently get into a place of a heart posture and a heart check to maximize it. Okay. So, number one, we don't need to be swiping when we're feeling lonely. Okay. When you're feeling lonely, probably shouldn't be on the dating app. All right. Well, what are the signs that I'm feeling lonely? That's a good question. If I go over to my feelings wheel, this is a really great resource. All right. That is really, really good. It's emotional sensation wheel is actually what I like to call it. I'm bringing it up. Emotional sensation wheel. Here we go. I keep clicking the wrong thing. There we go. All right. So when we're talking about, got to pull it up here. All right. So when we're talking about feeling lonely. All right. So that actually would be in the category of feeling sad. All right. And maybe there's a moment where you feel a sense of heaviness and weakness. Okay. There's a sense of heaviness or weakness that you're experiencing bodily. Okay. That's playing a role in the loneliness that you feel in the moment. And I mean, there can be some times where loneliness kind of just hits you, but remember, there's nothing that's really random that happens to us. So before you like, hey, but I always feel lonely and it always happens at the most random of times, I want you to just stay curious enough because there's a beginning to that feeling before we actually feel maybe the intensity of it. It's not random. It's not random. There was something that you felt, something you saw, something you experienced that reminded you of your current situation that then led you to feeling lonely. Let's investigate that. Let's not just leave it there. I'm lonely today. Let's not leave it there. Let's investigate it. Why? What what story, what experience, what happened that led us to feel like this? Because loneliness is a state that we can actually change. And if I were to paint this to y'all, I'm gonna bring out my whiteboard for a second because this could actually be really good. This is something that you actually will get a lot out of in deeper detail in my program. Send me a message with Secure. I would love to get you started on them. Specifically, Secure program designed to get you from anxious or avoidant attachment to secure attachment. Okay? Because a lot of you could benefit from that, especially after conversations like this. Because if you notice, a lot of the addictive loops that people find themselves in, oftentimes is because you can't tell the difference between things. Your anxiety is all high, your anxious attachment is screaming. Okay. And so, what better way to solve that and satisfy that than to get on a dating app and keep connecting from your attachment wound instead of coming from a place of security? It's actually what's reproducing the pain, not helping you through it. Okay. But I want to give you this picture really quickly. All right. Because when we talk about your state, we just talk about your state of being, how you're living, where you are right now. Okay. And with this state of being, something that I've been putting into practice more and more, okay, all right, is there is now, I say awareness, but I'm going to switch it up for a bit on this one. We're going to say focus, all right, mind, body, and heart. Okay, this is kind of a simplistic way or a more practical way, okay, to digest some of our emotions. Hopefully, you guys can see this over on TikTok. All right. Hopefully, it looks forward. All right, let me make sure it's kind of seen here on the screen. All right, y'all see this? All right, I want to paint this to y'all. This is going to make sense. Okay, so when we talk about a state, loneliness is a state. Okay? Loneliness is a state of being. This is affecting your posture, this is affecting your mind, it's affecting your emotions. It's a state that you're in. And as long as we gain some level of awareness of it, it actually is what's going to change the game. Okay, so when we say awareness, we're just saying focus. Because oftentimes, in order to get to a specific state, just like you can get to a state of happiness, joy, abundance, love, okay, courage. Just like you can get to those kind of states, it all is depending on, hey, what are you focusing on? What are you seeing? Not just necessarily what you're seeing, because we don't want to lie to ourselves. The reality is the reality. But what am I focusing on within that reality? And what is it creating? Okay. So then with that focus, we then have a mind, which is our story. All right. This is where the stories live, the stories that we'll repeat, the meanings that we'll give to the experience. And then we have our body, which is the body posture. Okay. Science tells us 90 seconds is roughly a good testing time. When something happens, your body responds. Takes maybe 90 seconds for your body to actually adjust and get used to it. Okay. For some of you, again, it's not to say it didn't happen within 90 seconds, but it might take you a little longer to realize it. It's cool. You're not defying science. All right. But your body is initially going to respond to a specific moment when something happens to it. So let's say when a breakup occurs, right? There's a reason why when the message is sent, your first response isn't immediate tears, because you're literally still trying to process the fact that this person is saying they no longer want to be with you. You're still trying to process it. So that's why all the questions start flying. What? What do you mean? What happened? What's going on? Right? And your body is literally trying to catch up and process with your brain with what you just heard. And it's unsettling. Okay. But it's all affecting your posture. And then when we talk about your heart, we're just talking about the emotions that flow. Okay. We're talking about the feelings that flow. And when we are able to locate these things, we now are able to actually change the state that we're in. So if you're in a state of loneliness, that doesn't mean we have to now finish out this loneliness before we go to a next level. Or, we have to stay in this loneliness and feel it for hours and days and weeks. No, when you become aware of it, you gain leverage to change it. So instead of being lonely, okay, let's just say that was loneliness. Your state was loneliness. Okay. And I'll actually write it in here. All right. So your state was lonely. Okay. Well, there was something you were focusing on that produced the loneliness. Okay. There were some stories that were being curated that produced the loneliness. Okay. Then that also produced later on the body response, the emotions and feelings. So it's not random. So if we can become aware of that and press in, now we're asking ourselves, okay, cool. Now that I become aware of that and I see what it is and I'm attaching a different story to it, doesn't mean I'm not enough. Doesn't mean I can't find the right person. All right. Now, instead of feeling lonely, I can get to a body posture of joy. Okay. Maybe it's not joy. Maybe it's abundance. It's one of my favorite words. All right. Well, what has to be true? What do I have to focus on in order to create this state of abundance? What stories do I have to cultivate in my mind? What meanings do I have to attribute to the experiences I'm having in order to create this abundance? What feelings and emotions need to be present? How does my body need to respond? Instead of hunched over, leaned over, faces down to the floor, carrying this sense of heaviness and weakness, I can shake my body out. I can lift my head. I can flash a smile. I can roll my shoulders back, do some jumping jacks. Okay, whatever it is, because now I'm able to actively change the state. That's kind of what we're engaging in when we're talking about this idea. Hey, like, don't get on the app lonely. And if you notice yourself being lonely and you noticed it as you were getting on the app, cool. Doesn't mean you're a failure. You caught it. Good. Now let's investigate it. Man, why am I feeling so lonely right now? It's 11 p.m. My phone is dry and I'm begging for somebody to talk to. And if I investigate that long enough, I might find out, you know what? It's just been a long day and I'm really tired because I ain't even going to keep up the conversation tonight. I need to go to bed. Or maybe it's like, man, it's like 1, 2 in the morning and I'm on here swiping and I'm just feeling some type of way as I'm doing that. Okay. Because there's a way you can engage in the swiping at this time of night and loneliness isn't attached. It doesn't always have to mean you're lonely when you're on there late at night. It doesn't. Okay. For me currently, like using the apps, man, like my best time of using them is really in the evening because that's the time I actually have to be able to be in my own space from doing some work and all the things. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're always lonely. But if you do feel that sense of heaviness and weakness within your body, which are bodily responses to loneliness, okay, let's investigate that. Let's not just leave it there. And if you choose to leave it there, realize that you're making that choice. We're practicing actively self awareness. Okay? Put one in the chat if that made sense. I don't want to lose you. I'm simply bringing that to you because just like we can acknowledge loneliness as a state, we can change it too. So it's not something we have to stay in or we feel we have to, ride out. Once we become aware of that state of loneliness, we do have the ability to change it. And that's where the ownership and abundance and self awareness comes into play. Okay. If you're, replace lonely with anxiety and anxious, replace lonely with, feeling angry. Okay. Feeling angry, feeling sad. All right. Feeling disgusted. None of it's random, but we do want to catch it. All right. We do want to catch it because then it gives us the ability to get ahead of it. Okay. So here, that's the rule number one, right? Don't go on there lonely. Don't swipe when you're lonely. Some of y'all are making the worst decisions because you're lonely. You're matching with the worst kind of people and starting conversations with people you don't even want to talk to because you're lonely. Some of y'all are creating the worst connections out of loneliness. And it's awful. Yeah, man. Shout out to Kyrie Irving. All right. Here's the second rule: don't swipe when rejected. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, all right, if somebody sent you a message and said, no, I'm not interested, or, you got on there, you swiped, sent a message, and you didn't get a response. Oh, I'm rejected, so I probably should get off of it. No, we're talking about a state. So when you're feeling rejected as a state, okay, typically that's probably coming from abundance of things, okay, depending on how you handle rejection. Maybe there's anger, maybe there's fear, sadness, disgust. All right. So when you're feeling rejected, okay, typically when you're feeling rejected and that's a state that you're embodying, you're probably moving with the idea of like, wow, nobody wants me, no one cares for me, and I'm not enough. Shout out to the life satisfaction 8 to 10. Why you say, well, if you had to choose between 8 to 10, what would it be? Is it an 8, a 9, or a 10? Yeah, and I love that, man. That's exactly where I was going at too, man. Because some people can handle rejection, right? Most people can't, but for those of you who genuinely can, it's not something that pushes you to anger, sadness. You're like, hey, I'm good. Oh, I mean, shoot, because that's mainly what we're dealing with, right? Is the wound of rejection. If you're at a place where you're saying, I can healthily deal with rejection, navigate it, I'm not going to continue to pressure her. I'm not going to continue to pressure him. I'm not going to be insulted, feel sad, feel crushed, all the things. It's I can let it go. Then you're good. You're free. Stay consistent with that. You know, it's possible, man. Yeah, sometimes, but I wouldn't necessarily cling it to the idea of like, okay, if I handle this well, then she's gonna come back around. No, I think we just believe someone when they say I'm not your option, I'm not your choice. I should just believe that. Um, and I do think the way that we handle rejection is more so speaking to the version of you that you are and the more secure you're becoming. That allows people to respect you more for sure. When you can handle rejection and not turn that into anything else, and you can handle that well, that does earn you some respect points. And rejection definitely shows your true colors. You're on to something, man. Absolutely. Right. So if you're somebody who's like, hey, I'm on these dating apps, but I feel like I can handle rejection. The key to handling rejection is you don't take it personal. Okay. You're not clinging to it. You're not replaying it. You're not rehearsing it. Okay. You can easily let it go and walk away. I mean, by all means, you know what I'm saying? Like you're good. But just be mindful of the state that you're carrying because for a lot of you, you get rejected and you stay on the app or because you just got, and by rejection, this is not just somebody telling you no. You just you got broken up with, you just got ghosted. Okay. Somebody just said you look ugly. Somebody just said that they were not interested. Okay, you went through the whole nine. All right. And then you were like, wow, all right, so I'm gonna just get on this date nap so I can numb the pain, so I don't have to address the rejection, so I don't have to process the feelings. That's when we want to be like, nah, we probably should not get on the absent swipe. Nah, not in that state. Because in that state of feeling rejected, all you're going to do is just swipe right on people that you probably don't necessarily feel safe enough to connect with or make sense to connect with. They definitely don't align with your values, but you'll go along with it because guess what? They're the new ice cream flavor. They're the new person on the block. It only makes things worse. It doesn't make it better. All right. Here's a third rule. Don't swipe when you're bored and dysregulated. Now, this is a good one. Okay. When you're bored, you probably don't have too much time on your hand. You probably have too much time on your hands and you're not locked in on something that's actually purpose driven. I really don't believe that you can experience a sense of boredom when you're walking in your purpose. And anytime you're in a place in life where you're just like, I'm bored, and we know what that feeling of boredom is like, you probably want to start questioning what is it that you need to be doing that you're not doing. And that probably doesn't involve a dating app. Okay. And then when we're talking about dysregulation, well, dysregulation is very interesting, right? Because there's various forms of dysregulation: anxiousness, anxiety filled, heart is racing, you're in overthinking capacities. Okay. You're ready to overshare, you're clinging to outcomes, you're chasing. Everything is coming from a place of fear. I'm running out of time, not enough matches, not enough messages. We probably should not continue swiping or keep swiping in that state, because anytime we're making decisions from survival paradigms, which is really where dysregulation often lives, we're not making clear decisions. We're making decisions out of wounds and hurt and unsettledness, not from places of abundance and peace and alignment. Okay. So again, just like we talked about with that loneliness state, we can most certainly transition from a dysregulated state to a regulated state. I'm not saying your entire day has to be dysregulated. If you notice that you're dysregulated, investigate it. Dang, what's got me feeling so bothered right now? Be honest about it. Breathe through it. Okay. Process it. If you want to know how to tangibly do all these things healthily, just hit me with a message secure. I got a perfect program just for you to walk through that actually brings this to life. But the beautiful thing about it is we don't have to stay dysregulated. But becoming aware that you're dysregulated is really huge. I agree, man. People should learn to be alone and not feel lonely at the same time. Absolutely. All right. Here's a great rule of thumb. Stop checking your app as first thing in the morning. And that goes for not just your dating apps. Stop checking social media first thing in the morning. Like, stop waking up and going directly to your phone and hopping on those apps and laying in bed for another 30 to 45 minutes. Get you a routine going. Get a routine going that involves you being okay with where you are and getting centered for your day. Half of the reason why a lot of y'all are losing your minds and losing your sanity is because the first thing you do when you wake up, just like the last thing you do before you go to bed, is got your face glued to the phone, doing things and looking at things that are jacking you up mentally and emotionally. And I promise you, there's a lot of your issues when it comes to anxiousness, dysregulation, and all the things that could be solved if you just stopped putting your hands on your phone the first thing in the morning. Unless you turning your alarm off, cool, but let that be the only thing you do. For my clients, I tell them often, hey, get into a rhythm and routine where you are starting your day without touching your phone for the first hour. When I started applying this in my life, y'all, things started falling off by the wayside so fast. It was crazy. It was crazy. I was no longer making time to start my day in chaotic states because I was trying to catch up with what's going on in the world and what's happening on TikTok and what's happening here and there. Start your day without getting on the apps and any social media. Okay? Makes a massive difference. Makes a massive difference. All right? Here's another rule. Stop using matches as proof that you're desirable. A match does not have to mean that the end outcome has been reached. This person is going to take you the distance. Stop attributing the meaning of a match to mean that you are now going to find that person through this person. A match does not mean that much. A match just means, hey, this is now a beginning. This is not the end. This is a beginning point. This is not the culmination of everything together. Makes a massive difference. When I see matches as beginnings of processes, I stop pressuring myself to be perfect, the other person to be perfect, or the process to go exactly how I envisioned it, so that way I can enjoy myself. The match is a beginning process to a beginning conversation to explore what's here with honesty, with intentionality, with transparency. The match does not have to mean we need to go the distance. You got a match on somebody you really like, and all of a sudden it's like, I found the one. No, no, you still don't know them. You match them and you still don't know them. So let's let's slow down. Okay? Matches are not to be used as proof that you're desirable. And if you don't come into these usages and these settings, whether you use dating apps or you don't, if you don't come in with the mindset that you are already where you need to be, you are full and excited and content with yourself as you are, and you're waiting for other people to come into agreement with that for you to feel better about yourself, you are not ready to date. Take a back seat. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Validation is an internal job, not an external responsibility of other people. Because here's the thing that you need to realize: people do not have to validate you. People do not have to validate you. People do not have to make you feel seen. Stop putting that onus on other people to do that for you. Matter of fact, I really do believe that peace, the peace in life that you actually want comes when you recognize that not everybody has a responsibility and owes you to be seen, validated, heard. Uh-uh. Now, two things can be true. We got relational nutrients, and part of those relational nutrients, as we've spent time on a stream before long ago, okay, relational nutrients are important. And one of those, a lot of those relational nutrients is the ability to be seen, containment, okay, spending time with each other, being able to understand one another plays a role. Okay. These are nutrients that we all have as human beings, but that does not mean that everybody you encounter and come across has a responsibility and a mandate to do those things for you. That's not what you think it is. It's actually entitlement. It's entitlement. Okay. So let's just call a spade a spade. Fur P, hey, send me a message with Secure. I'd love to get you started on some things. I don't know exactly what you oh, need to cancel a date tomorrow. Well, then cancel the date. Hey, I'm no longer interested. What's stopping you from doing that? For some of you, here's another tip that you could use: set a time limit. Maybe for some of you, you need an app limit. All right. And again, I do think that a lot of this is a reflection of some of y'all just not having enough to do. And I think if you yeah, like it just you gotta set a time limit. Okay. Manage your time wisely with that. Let's not be on these apps all day, every day. You got too much stuff to do, things to create, places to be, people to see. And we don't need to act busy. There's a difference between acting busy and genuinely being busy. And if you aren't genuinely busy with doing the right things, then chances are you aren't doing the right things. Okay. No excuse, no ghosting. Yeah, be straightforward. Don't ghost. For yeah, don't ghost. No, no, no. No, no, no. Let this if you know, no. Uh-uh. Be straightforward. Hey, I appreciate you. I know I said I initially was interested. I'm no longer interested, and I'm just going to continue my search forward. Take it easy. And guess what? You are not responsible to respond to that anymore. Let that be what it is. Keep it moving. Deuces. You know what that's called? Security. That's called security. And this is something that is either going to invite us further into that security, or it's going to be something that starts the trajectory of the secure life we want to build. All right. I hope that makes sense. For some of you, you got to set a time limit. It's an app limit. Hey, I got an hour a day to go through these apps, 2 hours a day, whatever it is. And honestly, stick to that. Because there's going to be a part of you that's going to try to excuse those time limits if you choose to go that route. And that's more of an identity problem, right? Because you're going up against your identity that has convinced you that you need to be on them 24/7 or you're going to miss the match for you. All the things that you overthink that causes you to believe that if you don't respond to a message right away, they're no longer going to be interested and they're no longer going to be caring. So we got to process that. Okay. And then here's the last thing: move from app to real world clarity quickly. Move from the app to real world application quickly. Okay. I'm not saying when you first match with somebody that you need to give them your number, but the longer it stays in the app, the more challenging it becomes. So if you're being intentional and you're really looking for somebody to date, you probably want to be able to get it out the app as fast as possible. And this is also something that gives us the understanding too. Hey, you giving your number does not mean that this now has to go the distance. Because you can more than likely give your number to somebody, have some messages with them, have a call with them, a FaceTime with them, and then figure out, you know what, I'm good. It is not the end of the world, and it most certainly doesn't mean you're a liar. It doesn't mean you weren't intentional. It doesn't mean you were fake. It doesn't mean that you weren't who you projected yourself to be. No, we gave this a try. I was being honest. I don't like what I'm seeing or hearing, and I'm okay. Because a healed mind is the ability to change your mind. You know what? I initially said I was interested. I'm not anymore. Take it easy. That comes from a place of being aligned because my no is just as strong as my yes. But I want y'all to get into a place where you're okay with moving things out of the app. Okay. If you match, you have some conversation, you notice some of it picking up. I'm not telling you to give it off the first 24 hours. All right. But be intentional with the conversation. If we're liking where it goes, have a nice little window to be like, okay, I want to take this out of the app and just continue having our conversations there. Okay. I'm not really a big fan, especially if it's somebody that I'm genuinely I'm interested in wanting to get to know more of. 5 days is really a long time. Unless within those 5 days we've only exchanged a couple messages, which is very reasonable using a dating app and knowing how people move on those. So there's not serious expectations to respond quickly or repetitively there. But I like to give a good window. Like if it's somebody that I'm talking to and I'm noticing I'm coming back to that app regularly, I'm coming back to that message a little bit more. Um, you know, a nice 5 to 7 day window is okay. I wouldn't go longer than 7 days. 7 days is probably way too long, actually. I probably wouldn't try to go longer than 5 days. Okay. If you can try your best, I probably wouldn't go longer than 5 days. Unless let's as if we're having consistent conversation, sharing back and forth, having some, opening up some things. Hey, I'm gonna give you my number. Send me a message there. And realize that that's just another checkpoint of access. That's not to say that now this has to go the distance. That's not even to say that a date has to come out of it, y'all. Like these are literal process checkpoints. You are able to set the pace and you do not have to be responsive to the pace somebody else is trying to set for you. If that's not something you're ready for, cool. But let's not just go with the flow on things. You have the ability to set the pace. So set the pace. Give your number. Hey, I would love for us to have a FaceTime call before we do anything. When are you available? I'm available this day, this day, this day. Hey, Wednesday works. Great. Let's connect then. In the meantime, I'd love to chat with you, you know, and we'll continue our conversation from what we were doing on the app. If you don't got FaceTime, use Skype, Zoom, Google Meet. Get creative. Okay. But let's move from the app to real world clarity, because a big part of this psychology conversation is we can easily conflate this idea that we're sending so many text messages back and forth as a sign that we're making progress and connecting. No, we just became text pals and we're not being intentional enough with what's moving forward. Okay. If I know what I want, you know what you want, we matched and we're having some good, interesting conversation to begin. Hey, I'm okay with leading this and saying, hey, let's actually get a FaceTime call in. Let's take another step in the progress. FaceTime goes well. Hey, I would love to schedule a date. I'm thinking coffee shop. I'm thinking let's go get some ice cream, boba tea. I'm thinking that's progress, y'all. I promise you, when you move with that energy, whether they respond or they don't, it doesn't have to change your intentionality. You're just weeding them out in the process. You're weeding out the ones that don't qualify in the process. As we used as an analogy before in this series, listen, not everybody that applies for a job for a specific corporate role qualifies for that job. Okay. And yes, the hiring manager has to go through the process and the screenings and all these things for people to actually make sense. He doesn't just give up on that. Okay. He has the standard, he has the criteria, and he's measuring up these applicants to it. And just because you got the first interview doesn't mean you got the job. Just because you got the second interview doesn't mean you got the job, but you're a step closer. You don't have the job until it's been communicated. Okay. So let's not move and move. Let's not move in that direction so extremely fast through assumptions. Okay. Question from TikTok. Okay, should we be talking about exclusivity? I feel weird bringing that up since they paid on the app. Yeah, no, absolutely. You should. Yeah, I think that's an important conversation, right? So, okay, cool. So we have to be mindful of the assumptions that we're giving, though, right? So yes, they paid for the app, they upgraded the app, all the things, but we have to be mindful of the assumptions that we're giving to that. Yes, simply because they pay for the app, you would think, yes, they're probably being a little bit more intentional, but that does not mean they are. So we have to actually ask the questions. Let's not move on assumptions, because assumptions can ruin more things than they, create better things. So in the event of connecting with them and you're having these conversations, yeah, we should ask, hey, like, again, I do think the conversation on exclusivity with this person and specifically comes up when the time is right and when it's ready. Okay. So when you guys have had enough conversation, you've been on enough dates, you've experienced them enough, and you genuinely want to go exclusive, and maybe that conversation hasn't happened yet specifically, then bring it up. Hey, so I'm actually at a place where to, I'm at a place where I'm ready to take the next step and actually go exclusive. Where's your head at with all this? Is that something that you're ready for? Are you interested in that? Okay. I remember one time there was a message I sent. I said, hey, it's been 90 days. I know exactly where I want to go. And I'm just curious, where are you at with things? How are you feeling? What is the next step forward in your perspective, so I can get where you're at so we can move accordingly. Okay. Like, yeah, let's just be direct about it. And we should have that conversation of exclusivity. So we're not guessing, or we're not moving by assumptions and staying stuck. That's kind of how we end up in these core loops of, you know, psychological addictives and all those kind of things. Huh. Let's just lay it all out there. Okay. So that's our conversation today. Put one in the chat if that makes sense. Was this helpful? Was this helpful? Put a one in the chat if it was. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. For anybody and everybody that did. All right. This is what it's here for. Let's dive into it. Let's have these conversations. If we're going to use these dating apps, there's a way to use them that's intentional and that's healthy, even if that means you're coming across a lot of people who aren't intentional and healthy. Okay. So a question. So the guy I liked, I asked about exclusivity, and he said we're not there yet. He said we okay. So he said we're not there yet. All right. So again, this is kind of a measurement of capacity, right? So, I mean, how long have you guys been talking and connected? Oh, that leg day boy had me cooked. Well, I tell you, that leg day yesterday had me cooked. Um, but yeah, I mean, how long have you guys been connected? 3 months. Then now we are into 1 year. Okay, so y'all have been talking for a year and 4 months, and he's like, "We're not there yet." See, you have your answer. You have your answer. I don't think you need to ask. You have your answer. You're ready for more. You're ready for something different. It's been a year and 4 months, and there is no exclusivity. No, you're not his decision. Yeah, yeah. You're not his decision. We don't even have to play around with that. You're not his decision. And we can make an honest, we'll grieve through it. Okay? We'll grieve through it. We'll work through it. I know there's a lot of investment in that. That's a lot of time. But yeah, somebody who's like, "Yeah, we're not there yet," and where are we? Nowhere. Nowhere. And sometimes people have to realize how good they had something when the good thing leaves. Sometimes people don't realize how good they have something until that good thing walks away. The there yet was 3 months in. What do you mean? Okay, so I feel like I had that correct. The there yet was 3 months in. Okay, so he said we're not there yet, and that was 3 months into the connection. You guys are now at 1 year, 4 months, and there still isn't a conversation of exclusivity. There's no tag, there's no title, there's no meaning. Y'all are, for all we know, y'all are just still pen pals and buddies. There's no like, do I have that correctly? And you haven't asked again, and it's been okay, some time ago. Yeah, okay. So okay, wait. So you're not buddies. He hasn't made it exclusive yet, and y'all are 1 year and 4 months in. Right. So what are you? What are y'all? I'm curious. He hasn't made it intentional. He hasn't made it exclusive. It's been a year and 4 months. 3 months into the connection, you asked and he said we're not there yet. You haven't asked again, and you've just been going on for the ride. What are y'all? He calls me his girl. Yeah, so he takes so yeah, if I all right, so I'm gonna tell you, I'll tell you this. If I were in your position, I would say I know what this is, and it definitely wouldn't have gone a year and 4 months. But I know what this is. This isn't what I'm ready for, and so I'm just gonna keep it moving. You have at it with whoever else you want to connect with. I'm gone. So that would be what I would tell you. However, um, I mean, I don't want to make the decision for you, and it sounds like maybe there can be room for you to have the conversation and say, hey, I just want to ask, what are we? We never really made this exclusive. We never made this official. I've noticed you've been calling me your girl for some time, and I want to believe that. I just don't think this has ever been made official. And then let the chips fall where they may. But I just think if we're just going for the ride, there has never been no official conversation made, nothing like that. We don't know where we are, fam. I know people are dysfunctional, but they ain't slow. They know what they're doing. He knows what he's doing. So yeah, I definitely am looking out for you in that regard. Okay. So yeah, we got to be honest about this stuff, man. And we have to set these parameters and these spaces to be able to have those honest conversations. You know, hey, I noticed you've been calling me this for some time, and like, are we? What are we? Yes. All right. So I hope that made sense. Um, and we will continue this conversation. Hopefully tomorrow is a good time. All right. I don't see any more questions, so we'll keep it moving. Um, hopefully we'll be continuing this conversation tomorrow. All right, because we have another part to look into this, and now we're going to start shifting into more of like profile setups and all those kind of things. Now that we've kind of got a lot of the rooted issues and struggles somewhat touched on, that definitely has so much more room to dive deeper into. This series is not designed to be an end all be all, okay, but it is something that we can definitely build with. All right, and go deeper through. And so tomorrow we'll come back hopefully, and we'll unpack the next part. Hope you guys got everything that you needed out of this conversation. I hope it was helpful. If it was, share your biggest takeaway in the comment section below, whether you're watching this on YouTube, maybe the replay, something along those lines. And I appreciate you guys a ton for kicking it with me. Listen, if you want free resources in order to become secure so you can date healthily, date more, date better, to find the right person, but more importantly, become the right person, be sure to hit the top of my page for your relational diagnostic and your attachment style. Okay, you need to know your attachment style and how to heal through that healthily so you can date effectively. More importantly, so you can become secure. All right, so be sure to check that out. Hey, appreciate you, Glitzy. Thank you so much. How you living, sis? So good to see you. Um, so be sure to check that out. Also, okay, also, be sure to send me a message with the keyword secure if you're interested in getting into my secure program designed to help you go from anxious or avoidant attachment to secure attachment. Okay. And actually learning how to date healthily, date well, be in connections healthily, dealing with you. So you can stop crying over who left. So you can stop rehearsing and replaying the worst of the worst. So you can actually live forward and get your life back. Okay, and not lose yourself in the midst of finding love ever again. Be sure to send me a message with the word secure, and you're going to have an automated message specifically on TikTok. Okay, you're going to have an automated message that is going to process through, and you're going to be able to answer those so you can get what you need. All right. Um, and my books are open, okay, for sessions, individual sessions, taking clients. So be sure to send me a message with the keyword secure. Okay, that's across all socials. All right. If you send me a message with the word, not secure, sessions. If you send me the keyword sessions, I will send you my Calendly link so you can book a session and so we can get you the results you need. 60 minutes is all it takes. And I think you will be so much grateful for what we experience, expose, and more importantly, what is available to actually get and experience transformation through after that. All right. And I appreciate you guys a ton, so much. And until our next conversation, be easy and be breezy. Peace. Appreciate y'all, TikTok. Take it easy. Appreciate you. Shout out to Instagram, YouTube.